Good morning, everybody. This is Laura Petersen. I'm your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I've got lots of great stuff to go over with you guys today, starting off with the stats in regards to what's going on. And basically, I've been going through the stats that where I always would get them from before, and they're always very accurate and easy and all of that kind of good stuff to pull up. And, with technology and change and everything like that, what has happened with the stats is that they've changed the way that they're presenting them. And personally, I am not a big fan in regards to what they're doing. And it because they're not having the detail, they're not having the information the way that it was in the past, and it's very hard to find it. So it's kind of looking at like a really big picture and trying to make it simple, and they've got like more graphs and all of those kinds of things to show it. But in all of that, what they're eliminating is really the real reason for the stats, in my opinion, is looking at the trends, being able to look at what it was last week versus this week and where it's going, or last month versus this month and all of that kind of thing. And last month versus this year or last year, where we're at, looking at all of that kind of thing. And so those stats that existed for years, I know that you can look back at a 20-year history of them and everything and kind of see what's going on, made it really easy and nice and all of that kind of thing. So now what they've done with those same stats is they've just made it so you can see what's going on now, but you can't see what's going on in the past. So what I decided to do is just go ahead and figure them out on my own, because I have the data, so I can go ahead and do it in looking and seeing, what it is. And I'm very open to feedback if anybody wants to give it to me in regards to, I don't even like the stats, I don't care about the stats or anything like that, or know what's going on. I mean, I know that when I run into people out there, they're always telling me, yeah, I like to hear what they are, because it gives me an idea if, just kind of in regards to what's happening and what's going on. And some of the things are still available that you can look at, but not the nitty gritty, not the finding out, really what the trends are, which is the whole reason of looking at them, in my opinion, to begin with. So basically, when I was looking at, the single family homes last week, that there were 747 of them sold, and these are in the counties of Orange, Osceola Lake, and Polk, and Seminole as well. So that's basically what they are. So of the single family homes, there were 747 of them sold, and the week before, it was quite a bit higher, because it was the beginning of the month, kind of in regards to what was going on. But breaking all that stuff down, there were 60 that were sold between 0 and 250. Then 250 to 300, there were 107. 300 to 400, there were 242. 400 to 500, 131. 500 to a million, 180. And over a million, there were 42 homes that were sold. So then when you're looking at the list to ask price ratio, 92.7 is over a million, which usually there's quite a bit of room there on that. Then everything else, 96.2 is under 250, which usually that's a little lower. And then it goes down, basically 97, 98 all the way across from anywhere else. The median price is 395,000 for a single family home, and the time on the market is 73 days. And when we're looking at our inventory, basically we're looking at about a 4-month inventory, which is a normal market. So what that kind of tells you is that what's going on right now is that we're in a time of the year where there are usually a lot of sales. It goes down, a little bit at this point in time, where for next month, just because people are getting out of school. Of graduations are happening, kids are out of school. That is happening like this week and next week. And basically, what's happening as a result of that is that, people's usual routines are adjusted. And so you have to get used to that new routine. So as people are doing that, they're getting used to their routines. They're not out there looking at houses. So that's basically what happens this time of year, if anything. So if you're putting your house on the market right now and you're like, nobody's seeing it yet, maybe that's it. But I would say that a big thing that's going on today in our market, because there are 4 or 5 months of inventory, is that basically what happens is that people they have enough choices out there that if your house doesn't look like it's worth the amount of money that it says it is, then you're not going to get the showings in regards to what's going on. And that's where price is so important in today's market. And, you have a lot of sellers that say, hey, I think that, my house is worth more and I just want to try it. And a lot of times that hurts you. The thing that I have learned over the years, which is 20 plus years in real estate right now, is that price definitely matters, and the house always comes to that market value when you've got it out there. So I tell this story many times, and you may have heard me tell it before, but back in the day when there were a lot of foreclosures, like 2009, 10, 11, in that area, there was a particular realtor that had a lot of those listings, like 400 of them at a time. So they had a really good system in regards to what they were doing in listing those properties. And I always liked selling the properties that they had. The buyers were getting unbelievable deals that they can't get now. I was talking a couple weeks ago, this house that these people bought for me at this point in time. At that point in time, I think they bought it in 2010, which is kind of at the lower end of the market. And they bought that house for $60,000. And I rented it for them like 10 years ago. They usually find their own tenants, but they were having trouble this year, so they had me do it. But now they're getting $2,000 a month in rent on that same property, and the property's worth probably in the neighborhood of $350. So basically, it was actually a really good buy on their part. They bought it for cash. And so it's just been giving them a nice income all this time. And they own about 10 of those houses. So, good for them. They've done really well with them. And that's really something that if you are interested in investing, it's never too late to look into and find the right deal, for you and your family to do that. But the point of all of this is that particular realtor, what they were doing is that they were working with the banks, and they told them, they said, hey, we all know market price is what's going to drive this thing. So every month that it sits on your books, it costs you more and more money with the maintenance and the electricity and the water and the yard and all of those kinds of things. And that's not what you want to have happen. So what they did is that they would always set the price just below market value, what it was. And so it was always at, say like 97%, 98% of what the market was. And every time they would get about 107% of what they were asking, because they would create such a frenzy with that price that people would go crazy, and you would get multiple offers and they would be bidding each other up and everything like that. And they would end up with 107% of market. And that is absolutely what happens when you price your property correctly. And so it's like everybody's like, and so it brought it up to above the market value is what they got for it. And they sold it right away within like 10 days. I mean, you want to keep it on the market for a little while so that people can do that. Right after the pandemic, the same thing was going on where, you would put that house on the market, and if it was anywhere near what it should be, you would get multiple people in it. They would be given multiple bids. It would be above asking price and all of that kind of stuff. But you had to keep it on the market for a little while to get the biggest bang for the buck for what you were going to get from that house. And so that's what basically, happens. And one of the things that I really feel strongly about what that you have to price your property correctly in the beginning. And I'm going to continue with this a little bit after the break. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com. And I will see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Petersen. I'm your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I wanted to just continue a little bit in regards to pricing and why it's so important and everything, with this. I was talking to a lady the other day. I was actually with the buyer and, the owner was there at the property. And when I went there, she said, we just reduced it like 45,000. And we probably should have started out there to begin with, but I just didn't want to. Because I've put $80,000 into the place, and so I just really wanted to try to get my money out of it. And I understand that. I mean, the thing that people have to understand that when you put money into a property, if it's not the roof, if it's not the air conditioner, that are things that you're going to have to do anyway, if you're putting in things that are your own personal touches on that, some people are going to like them and some people aren't. But usually they're going to come in and they're going to do their own thing. So some of the things that these people had spent $80,000 on was the flooring. They had put in tile wood flooring. It looked really nice. But this particular buyer that's considering buying this property is actually going to come in and completely renovate this model from the standpoint of moving walls and all of that kind of stuff. The property is actually like it's a townhouse. It's 2,095 square feet or something like that. And basically it feels like it's about a 1,500 square foot place because of all of the extra hallway things that they've got in it and all the little things that they did in it that really do not make sense. So, the person owns a property that's like 1,344 square feet that's in the same complex, basically, and, has the same size living room, kitchen, all of that kind of stuff in it. And both of them have 3 bedrooms. One has 2.5 baths and the other one has 2 baths. But the one has stairs, the other one doesn't. So stairs take up about 400 square feet right there. So that's a big thing when you're looking at 1-story versus 2-story. Why the 1-story might feel a lot bigger is because you're not going to have that wasted space that's going to be happening with the stairs. And maybe you think, well, it's only 200 square feet, like going up 20 feet and 4 or 5 feet wide or whatever. But you got to remember a lot of times that's 2 stories worth of space that's being taken up by that. So it ends up being about 400 square feet for a stairway. But this particular place then has a hallway going to the half bath, and that's another 4 feet. That's like 4 feet by 20 feet. That's just kind of wasted. The foyer is pretty wasted. And so you've got all of the common areas in this place the same as a place that's 1344. So even though it's a bigger square footage, it sure doesn't feel like it. And that's where a lot of people tell me, hey, I want this much square footage and stuff like that. And I think you've got to, it's like, kind of what you want it to be, but you've got to go in it to actually feel what it feels like. I've been in 13, 14, 1,500 square foot places that feel bigger than 2,500 square foot places. And it's just all in the layout. And it's amazing the way all of that stuff works. But, getting back to that 80,000 that she's put into it, one thing that she did is she put in plantation shutters. So that obviously is something that might be like $10,000 that the new owner is probably not going to do anything with. That is a bonus for the new owners. Another thing that they did is they put this tile on the backsplash and on this column that kind of separates the living room from the family room, per se, one thing a little bit. And basically, that is like, it looks like real bamboo, is what it looks like. It's tile. So it does have a texture to it, like it's a bunch of bamboo trees like standing next to each other. So the thing about that is that that is very specific to that specific owner. Everybody's not going to want to have that bamboo, look. And so I'm sure that that costs them a lot of money to do that, but that is something that you're definitely probably not going to get out of it. Now, is it worth doing? If that's what you want and that makes you happy, absolutely. But if you're doing it and thinking that you're going to get out of it when you go to sell it, that's probably not going to be a fair assessment in regards to what's happening. And so, so all of those things are things that you've got to look at when you're, if you're planning on selling. And basically, the flippers probably have some really good ideas and what they can tell you that they do. I mean, solid surface counters are something that is desirable and everybody likes if it's just Formica or whatever it is right now. And then in addition to that, stainless steel appliances are still a really big thing, but the most important thing when it comes to a kitchen is that the appliances match. I was meeting with somebody and they've upgraded and they've spent a lot of money doing all the upgrades and that kind of stuff. But they have a like an almond color stove, and then they've got stainless steel, refrigerator and a stainless steel dishwasher and microwave. And I said, you really have to have that stuff match. So you can go one way or the other, but it really needs to match. And if you're looking at any of the, any of those investors that are looking at it, they're always looking at that. And that's something that a flipper is definitely going to do. And, when it comes down to it, there are different grades of stainless steel. When you're looking at a property, you don't definitely necessarily know, but there's that stainless steel that you touch and every single fingerprint is on there that you can see. And then you've got the touch resistant or whatever. I'm not sure exactly what they call it, but basically, it doesn't leave any marks on that. So that's going to make a big difference in regards to your maintenance and that kind of thing of the property. So if you're looking at a house, you might want to touch the stainless steel appliances and see if you leave a mark on them or if they, look pretty good when you get done with it. I mean, that's one of my little pet peeve things that I want to make sure that I personally don't have when I go shopping for appliances. I make sure that it's got that touch resistant kind of thing. I mean, obviously you've got to clean and do all that kind of stuff, but you don't want to do it every 5 minutes when somebody just opens up the door that you've got something big or whatever that's on there. So when it comes to, setting your price, you've got to look at it from the standpoint of the person that's looking at everything else out there that's on the market. And if you're higher, I can tell you for sure, than other houses in your market, you're not going to get the people in there. And the difference between having everything look great, even if it's to your taste and not to somebody else, and you've done all these upgrades, that's going to make your house stand out in that particular neighborhood. In Orlando, we are very well known for having a lot of homeowners associations. A lot of our homes are built from the 90s on. There's some from the 80s on, but mostly they're the 90s on, and all of them are in homeowners associations. So they had maybe 5 to 10 different floor plans that they did in that particular neighborhood because it was all usually one builder. And so when that builder came in, they just had the same amount of floor plans. So being next door to a house, it's not like they're all kind of cookie cutter is what they say a lot of times. And so, if a house down the street that's your same floor plan sold for 50,000 less than what you want to get for it, the chances are you're going to have a tough time getting that extra 50,000 even with your upgrades. because when people look at it, they definitely have to justify that cost. And if they're getting a loan, which most people do, then that means that the appraiser has to come in and appraise it at that same price too. And they are very schooled in if it's one upgrade over another, that's something that somebody can change, and that doesn't have an intrinsic value in the house. So it's something that's very important that you look at and that you realize and that you know about. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and I will see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Petersen, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So this is going over there's 28 remodeling projects, and I'm not going to go through all of them and how much they cost, and then basically what the cost recouped when you go to sell your property. And some of these I agree with, some of them I don't necessarily agree with. This is saying garage door replacement, $5,126, and the resale value it's saying is $11,670. Now, obviously, if your garage door needs to be replaced, absolutely. But if it still looks like it did when you got it, then not necessarily. So that they're saying that's a 267.7% increase. Now, obviously, this is going to be if the garage door is viewable from the street, is where it's really going to make a difference. If you have an alley, which some places do around here, then I don't think it's going to make as big a difference at all. The entry door replacement with a steel door, they're saying that that'll cost $2,400, and it'll add $5,000 of resale value, and so that's giving you 216%. Basically, manufactured stone veneer, it says it costs $11,000 roughly, and it's a $21,000 increase. So that's basically what the scoop is on that. And I think that manufactured stone veneer can actually look really nice and does add value, but again, it's the curb appeal to get somebody in there. So if nobody else in your neighborhood has it and you put it on there, you're probably not going to get $21,000 for it in the cookie cutter homes. I'm just going to be honest. Then the minor kitchen remodel, it says the minor kitchen remodel is like $28,500, and you're going to get $31,000 for it. Now, for a certain amount of things like that, I think that this could be possible if, it depends on how old the house is, if it seems really dated, and the newer the houses seem more dated sometimes than the older houses do. Like if you're looking at a 90s house versus a 2000 house, they pretty much look the same in regards to if they haven't been updated or not. So doing that might really help you out. The backup power generator, that costs you $13,561, and $13,089 is what they say you get out of it, which I think that a lot of people do like that certainty that if we have a hurricane and the power goes out for a few days, that you're still going to have electricity and be able to do what you want to do. Composite deck costs $24,000, and they're saying it's worth $21,000 when you're looking at it. If a wood deck is $18,300, and you're going to get $15,200, so you're going to get instead of getting 88%, you're going to get 94% out of it. Window replacement. This is something that to me is it's kind of tough to see. So if the windows really need to be replaced and you can tell it, then it makes a big difference. But otherwise, it does not, in my opinion. But it's saying that you're going to get about 75% out of it. Grand entrance, fiberglass, it's going to cost you $11,000, and you're going to get $9,000 out of it. Then a bath remodel, mid-range, is going to cost you about $26,000, and you're going to get $20,000 out of it from what they're going to say. HVAC, it's saying you're spending 19 and you're going to get 14 out of it. Roof replacement. Now this one I think is it. If your roof needs it, you need to do it. It's going to cost 32,000, and it says you're going to get 22 out of it. Many times in today's market in our area, if you don't have that roof replacement, you are not going to even be able to sell your house because somebody can't get insurance on it. And so as a result of that, they do that. And basically a lot of insurance companies that you have right now, you would think, well, they're insuring it now and they'll take it over and they could get the same rate. And that is definitely not what's happening out here. Now, a metal roof, they're saying that to do that, it would cost 50,000 and you would get 28,000 out in your purchase. Mid-range of a bathroom is 59,000 to redo it, and 30,000 is what you would get out of it. A major kitchen over remodel would be 81,000 and you would get 40 out of it, so right about 50%. A backyard patio, 49,000 to put it in, and you would get 21,000 out, which is 46%. An ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, where you can have somebody else live in like your backyard, whether it's a relative or something like that. 161,000. Yes, I believe that's about what they cost, and it says that you'll get 67,000 out of it, so it's a 41% increase. Now, ADUs are something that I think people are definitely very interested in, whether it's for aging parents that are going to live in that ADU, or if it's an adult child that's going to be moving out. The ADUs are definitely worth some money. So here it's saying that it's worth roughly 67,000. So I would say 67 to 100,000 is basically what you're going to be able to get in there. An upscale addition of a bathroom is going to cost you 107,000. It says you're going to get 40 out of it. I would agree with that. A major kitchen remodel, 161 that you're going to spend on it. You're maybe going to get 60 as going on it. If you want to add a primary suite addition, that's going to cost you 165,000, and you might get a $57,000 increase. Now that's increasing the square footage and everything in regards to that. Solar panel installation, it says here 55,000 that it's going to cost you, and maybe you're going to get 16. And I think that is on a good day from what I have seen around here. If you want to do an upscale primary suite addition, it's saying it's going to cost you 300,000 and you're only going to get 63,000 out of it. So I think that when I'm going through these, that what you can see is that if you do want to upgrade your home to all of these things, then basically it comes down to that some of these are adding square footage, which are going to definitely be something that an appraiser is going to appreciate. But when you're doing these things, for the most part, you're doing them so that you can enjoy them, not necessarily that the next guy is going to enjoy them, because unless you make it very generic, they're definitely probably going to want to change that. What I find is that most people that come in and purchase a property, they're going to spend about 10% in making it their own. And so if they're buying a $400,000 house, they're going to spend 40 making it their own. And those things that you might have just upgraded might be things that they're going to take out and make different. And so when it comes to doing those things, I always think that you need to look at a before and after market value in regards to what it's going to do. And I started this whole thing out by talking about a guy that I'm working with that's considering remodeling this 2,000 square foot townhouse, kind of thing. And it would definitely make a lot more space, but it's going to be hard to get that 70 to 100,000 out of it when they go to sell. So he's looking at living there for 10 years. So for 10 years and him enjoying it and having that extra space would probably be worth it, that it's going to cost him, roughly $10,000 a year in regards to having that. But, his other option is that he might buy a house and the house is going to cost him $200,000 more. So there's pluses and minuses for everybody. Everybody has their own goals in regards to what they're going to do. And this is a property that he's going to live in 4 months out of the year, not renting out any other time of the year. So it's definitely a second home in regards to how you're going to handle all of that kind of good stuff. So basically, when it comes down to it, you really want to look at, what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish when it comes to a remodeling job and what you're going to get out of it? And basically the higher end that you go, the depending on the property to begin with, I'm talking about an average home or whatever. And basically, when you're looking at that, and if it's in a cookie cutter neighborhood, you really do have to be careful because that home is going to be improved way above all the other homes. So the person that buys that home at the quote market value, they're going to be a happy camper, but it may not be as happy of a circumstance for you unless you've got a lot of equity and everything already built into it. If you did it to get it out of it, you really have to look at it. So the best thing that I think that you can do is actually call someone like myself, and we can go over, really what value it's going to add to your house if that is your end goal. If it's to enjoy it yourself, go for it all day long. I think it's the best thing for you to do. But if you're looking to do it to resell, I think you really need to consider and look at, what's going on and what you do need to do. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we will see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Petersen, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So one of the things that I noticed this week, basically is that the southern buyers in our area put less down than other areas of the country. Basically, it's 13.4 overall, and you can do it as a first-time buyer as low as 3 or 3.5, and even 0 if you get a USDA loan, and obviously veterans can get 0 as well. The Northeast led the country at 17.8 versus our 13.4. The West was 16.5, and the Midwest came in at 15.6. So that's basically what's going on there. Another thing that I wanted to mention to everybody is that they're saying that the inventory is kind of leveling to the pre-pandemic stages. So in 2019, we had about the same amount of inventory as we do now. So that's really considered a normal market in regards to what's going on. So I think that that's all good news in regards to what's going on with the market out there that's looking at what's happening. So when it comes to interest rates, they're not doing great at the moment. We do have the new chairman of the Federal Reserve that's just been inputted, and so hopefully that's going to make some affordability options available for people there. When the interest rates go down, then that increases affordability, which we talked about affordability last week. But basically when the interest rates went from 3 to 6%, then that almost doubled, not quite, but almost doubled the payments for people buying the same house. So a person that's making the same amount of money can't buy the same house that they could have bought, pre-pandemic. And so that's really where the interest rates really come into play very strong. And our housing has not decreased. Basically, when you look at year over year, from this year to last year, we're looking at that we're still pretty stable. The median price went up, I think, maybe about $5,000, which is not a lot of money, but they stayed pretty similar to where they were. And, like I always say, I think that that's a good thing that they're stable, that they've been very stable, which shows our market is extremely stable in regards to what's going on. The things that I've noticed are that I think that the rental properties are staying on there a little bit longer, especially for the ones that people are wanting to wait a little while and that they would like to get a little bit lower price. I believe that the median price of a rental home right now is about 2400. So basically, if people are trying to get 3000 or more, and you want to get somebody that's making three times the rent, well, that's them making 9000 a month minimum, basically, is what it's going to cost for that $3,000. And that comes into the affordability of the rentals and everything as well. So a lot of people team up together in order to get that all going, and that's kind of what's going on in regards to all of that. So in general, when we're looking at it and seeing what's going on with our market, is that I think we're in a great market. Basically, when it comes to a seller, like I talked about, that you really need to price it right. But if you do, houses are going very quickly, and so are condos. Actually, I was looking at the condo stats this week, and there was one property that sold over $1 million, and it sold for 101% of asking price. It was only on the market 7 days, which, there's obviously a lot more properties. There are 39 of them that are out there on the market right now. Only one sold last week, but that one had priced it under market value, so it took it above it, even when that over a million usually gets talked down. So obviously, I think that they probably had more than one offer on it, and people were very committed to getting it, and they did. And so that's what you want to create, because it's like taking the Band-Aid off fast or taking it off slow. You want to have it so that you can actually, in my opinion anyway, so that you can get it done and get it done quickly in regards to what's going on. And there are a lot of options and everything out there for people today in regards to selling their home, from the standpoint of that you can get cash offers. You can buy your next house before you sell this house, so you don't have to go through the hassles. There are so many options that you have, that we have for you today, other than just listing it in the traditional way. And basically, when I think there's probably in the neighborhood of about 13 or 14 different things that you could do to get your home sold in a unique way, and still get full value for it. It might cost you a little bit, but not that much. But when it comes to convenience, it might be something that you would want to consider. And so I always want to throw that out there to let people know that we do have options out there for you when it comes to selling your house and what you want to do. We start with that end goal in mind and then work its way back there. But there are tons of opportunities out there for you to, do what you want to do when it comes to housing. If you want to add that, extra dwelling unit, that accessory dwelling unit that's out there. There are several rules that every county has in regards to doing that. But, it might make sense for you and your family, and we want to make sure that we're here to support you. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com. And enjoy Memorial Day weekend. It's a great holiday for everybody to get together and remember those that have sacrificed it all for us, and that's what it's all about. So have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you next week.